welcome to a first draft video for Euro Fantasy Football, Euro 2020, even though we're in 2021. But thank you everyone who has obviously been asking about, are you going to be doing Euro Fantasy Football videos, or just asking me to make some content, and I will. The normal team selections, deadline streams, you name it, it's all going to be coming to the channel. And if you have any ideas, then let me know, and I'll be obviously more than welcome in terms of, looking at your feedback and trying to address it and trying to improve the channel. But before I obviously talk about my team, and it is a first draft, I have put quite a lot of thought into it, but there could be some changes. But before I do all of that, I'm going to be talking about the rules section, because this is very similar to UCL Fantasy. And speaking of UCL Fantasy, I'm going to be making a team selection video for the final later this week, obviously just before the game happens, and there could be a deadline stream on the Saturday 1 hour before the deadline. So that's coming to the channel. And let's go straight into it. It's very important to look at the rules, because some of you who maybe are too used to FPL or Sky Fantasy or something like that, this is going to be quite different. And this is going to be my first in terms of, an international competition, doing a fantasy football game. But it's very similar to UCL Fantasy, so I'm quite familiar with some of the rules and stuff. So you can see all of this in the rules section of either the app, the gaming hub, or also just the UEFA website. So it's all there and it's all well explained, but I'm just going to go through it briefly. So I'm not going to go into this kind of thing, but in essence, 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, 3 forwards, just as always, 15 players. In terms of formations as well, it's, you have to have at least 3 defenders in there, 2 midfielders and a striker in your starting 11. So that's kind of, very pretty basic. And here, this is going to be very interesting. Number of players per team. So in the group stages, it's very similar to FPL. You have 3 players from the same nation, but then it increases as you go across the tournament. In the round of 16, you get 4 players. In the quarterfinals, you can get up to 5 players from one team. In the semi-finals, that increases to 6. And in the final, you can have 8 players. And you can even have 7 of the other team that reach the final, and that can make up your entire squad. And anything else in terms of substitutions, it could be manual and also automatic. I would suggest being in charge of your substitution, so I would suggest doing manual. And what you can see here, if you scroll down, you see this thing where it says substitution window. So after a match day happens, and this is all within the same match day, it's match day 1, but there's different matches or different days within that match day. So after the Friday, after Turkey play Italy in the opener, there's a substitution window before the 2 o'clock games on the Saturday, and you can use that opportunity to change your captain and to also make substitutions. So let's say, for example, you look at my team, let's say Burak Yilmaz blanks. And then let's say, okay, for example, I have, let's say Kevin De Bruyne on my bench. I can bring him on for Burak Yilmaz, and there we go. But then those points are completely cancelled out, and you can't reverse that decision. And the same when you change the captaincy. So you have to obviously confirm it and make sure that you know what you're doing. But that's a very important factor of this game, the substitutions and the fact you can change your captains. And as you can see here, it explains it. So every time you save your team, you'll need to pick a captain from your starting 11. And obviously, the points double. And it says once all the games on the first day of a match day are finished, and before the other games have kicked off, you can sub out your captain or switch the captaincy from one player to another. So that means you don't have to actually substitute that player out, your original captain. You can just change the captaincy from someone else. So even if we say, once again, looking at my team, let's say I captain Chiesa and he got 5 points, so he got an assist. So I don't want to get rid of him, but I also don't want him to be my captain. Then you change the captaincy, and there you go. You just make captain, and it will be an option saying, do you want to confirm this? And there you go. So that should be pretty simple, and it's a very important tip. And here, look, it even says tip. Select a captain from a team playing on the first day of a match day. That way, if he doesn't score as many points as you would have liked, you can switch the captain to one of your players who's playing later in the match day. And that also gets me onto one of the points that I always stress in UCL Fantasy. So when you look at your bench, try to have players there who are playing later on. So as you can see here, I have Kimmich, Holles and Kimpembe. They all play pretty much quite late on. So for example, Holles, who plays for Czech Republic, he plays on the Monday of the 14th of June, which is quite late on in terms of the match day. Then you look at Joshua Kimmich and Kimpembe. They both play on the final day, Tuesday the 15th of June, and they're all on my bench, so I don't have to worry about them up until that point. Then you look at Hradecki, I think, hopefully I pronounced that right, or somewhat to a decent degree, but he's on my bench. He plays on the Saturday, the 12th of June, which is one day after Donnarumma, who plays on the first day. So just do not have players who play on the first match day or the upcoming match day. Don't have them on your bench. Otherwise, unless you have automatic substitutions and someone in your starting lineup misses out, that's the only way you're going to be able to bring them in. So it's very important to be in control of your transfers, in control of your substitutions and the captaincy. So try to micromanage everything. And that's kind of one of the key differences between that and FPL, where a lot of it can be automatic, and in this you can micromanage a lot of things, such as the substitutions and different captaincies throughout the match day. And in terms of transfers, which is very important as well, so you get 2 free transfers per match day in the group stages. So for the first 3 match days, 2 free transfers. Then before the round of 16, you basically have a wild card and you can make unlimited transfers. So yeah, definitely, obviously, don't use your wild card for the round of 16. That I would not suggest that. A very popular strategy will be to use the chips, both the limitless and the wild card, during the group stages. So very similar to UCL Fantasy once again. And if not, I would suggest using it either in the quarterfinals, semi-final, or final, especially if you have a lot of players from eliminated teams, and you can use that wild card to just make the best out of it, and you can make as many changes as you want and put yourself in a strong position in the knockout stages. But before the quarterfinals, you get free transfers. Before the semi-finals, is 5, and the final, the same thing, 5 free transfers. And obviously, right now, in the stage we're at, before a ball has been kicked in the Euros, we have unlimited transfers, so you can make as many changes as you want and then try to find a structure that you are happy with. And I would suggest having a balance in terms of, players on different days. So for example, you'd probably want to have someone who's playing on the first 2 days. You want to have at least a few players there, and then after that, some players playing on the other days as well. So if you look at, for example, if you have someone from Turkey or Italy, that's fine, you've got that covered. From the Saturday matches, some Belgian players maybe, someone from Switzerland or Denmark, that's fine. On the Sunday, maybe some England players, maybe players from the Netherlands, etc. Then you look at the Monday, Polish players like Lewandowski, or Spain, Scotland. There's quite a few choices there. And then on the Tuesday, of course, it's the group of death there, but Portuguese, French and German. And if you have a kind of good balance between different match days, it also kind of plays into that thing I was talking about earlier in terms of substitutions, where you are able to just have a better chance of getting more points, because if someone blanks on the earlier days, you can sub them out for someone who is playing on a later day within that match day. So hopefully that makes it all clear, and I'll definitely be explaining some of this later on, and using some of these tips myself, I might make some more changes and have even more of a balance and try to diversify the different nations within, my squad. And anything else? Yeah, the chips. For those of you who don't know, well, the wild card is just like an FPL. You can make unlimited changes to your squad in a match day, but obviously that is permanent and that will stick up until the rest of the the tournament. But the limitless is just like a free hit basically, but you have no budget restrictions. So for example, you can get Lewandowski, Mbappe and Ronaldo up front. In midfield you can get De Bruyne, Hazard, I'm trying to think of more expensive players, maybe Gareth Bale, and all these sorts of players. In defence you can get I was going to say Ramos, but he's not even selected to Spain. But yeah, you could get players like Laporte, Pavard, all these sorts of players. Just you have no budget restrictions at all, so it's not an issue. And of course, be wary of the deadlines. They're going to be thick and fast every 4 or 5 days or so, and starting from the 11th of June, and obviously the final is on the 11th of July. So literally a whole month of this, and it's going to be very important. In terms of the point scoring system, pretty much a lot of it is similar to FPL, but there's a few differences, so I'll highlight them clearly for you. So for example, if a player scores a goal from outside the box, you get 1 additional point on top of the 4, 5 or 6 points that that player gets for scoring the goal. So that's very important. Just like UCL Fantasy, that is a factor. Winning a penalty, instead of it counting as an official assist and getting 3 points for that, you get 2 points. So it's not like you get the 2 points for winning the penalty, and if it's converted, it turns into another free, or it turns into free. It's literally just you win 2 points for winning the penalty. So even if it's missed by the player in question who takes the penalty, that player who won it in the first place is still going to be awarded those 2 points. If you concede a penalty, you actually lose a point. Missing a penalty is -2, just like in FPL. And yeah, the rest is pretty similar. The red card, yellow card, an own goal, same point scoring system. Same with goals. Whether you're a defender or a goalkeeper, you get 6 points for scoring a goal. And I say goalkeeper because of the Alisson kind of saga recently. Obviously, you get 5 as a midfielder and 4 as a striker. That's the same. And yeah, saving a penalty is 5 for a goalkeeper. Every 3 saves is 1 point, just like in FPL and UCL Fantasy. And every 2 goals conceded, you lose a point. Same with a defender. So yeah, the rest is pretty similar. You're going to be familiar with it, but there's a few differences. So the main ones to look out for: goals from outside the box, you get an extra point. Winning a penalty is 2 points, regardless of if the penalty is missed or not. And yeah, that's pretty much the kind of main differences there in terms of the points. There's no ball recoveries, which I'm a bit surprised by. UCL Fantasy does that. So for every 3 ball recoveries, you would get a point. That is not the case here, and I'm not so sure what to think of that, but I do like the fact that in UCL Fantasy, it kind of values defensive midfielders, players like Kante, for example, who make a lot of ball recoveries in the match. It kind of increases their value, and also just the kind of decision making every manager has to make, because now ultimately you're going to be looking at players who can score goals or get assists from midfield. So that's pretty much how it's looking. Anything else really? I mean, this is kind of maybe important, I guess. Players will keep scoring points for extra time. Players won't score points for penalty shootouts. That's pretty self-explanatory, just like UCL Fantasy. Oh yeah, this is the main one in terms of assists. So when a goal is scored from a solo run or dribble, no player will be credited with the assist. So for example, let's look at Busquets' assist for Messi in 2011 against Real Madrid. When he literally just passes it to Messi, he dribbles past 3, 4, 5 players and slots it home. Busquets wouldn't get the assist for that in this game. So that's pretty much it. Or Lingard against Wolves, whoever assisted that goal, you're not going to get it, mate. So yeah, hopefully that covers pretty much all of it. If you have any remaining questions, then let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll try to clarify anything that needs to be clarified, to be honest. But yeah, there's quite a few rules. Not too much different though on the face of it. I don't think it's as much different as I would have anticipated. Obviously the ball recovery thing I'm a bit surprised by, but yeah, it's very similar to UCL Fantasy. It's identical. Obviously that's the only kind of major difference. So in terms of my team, this is what I have come up with, and a lot of my budget is on my attack, and I tend to always kind of favour my midfielders, but there's going to be a few changes in this team, I think, and I definitely want to see how these teams line up before the Euros with the friendlies or the kind of qualifiers that are happening, and I'll be doing even more research on all the teams and trying to see who are the best defences, who are the best attacks, and some of the kind of differential players that we can go for. I would definitely like to have some more differentials in my team, but let's start off in goal. I've got 2 goalkeepers, Donnarumma and Hradecky. Hopefully I pronounced that right, as I said earlier. I think it's very important to have an Italian defender or goalkeeper in there, and I went with Donnarumma because he's nailed. I think he can get plenty of save points, and he's got a decent group. So Turkey, pretty decent opposition to be fair. Switzerland, the same thing, and Wales can cause problems. So it's not like I expect 3 clean sheets there. I probably would expect maybe 1, but Donnarumma I think is one of the better options in goal. If you want maybe someone from a strong team who's a kind of a set and forget for the rest of the tournament, you could go for Courtois, for Lloris, but I do think some of these keepers like Donnarumma, like Kasper Schmeichel, for example, they could be very, very good value. Now, when you look at Hradecky, he's only 4 million, and he's one of the best goalkeepers in the Bundesliga, and he is a starter for Finland. So obviously, if that does change, I will let you guys know. But as of now, 4 million for a goalkeeper, it's a bargain. The only thing I would suggest to any of you who are thinking of using the same goalkeeper pair as me, now while it's not going to be a problem on the first match day, so Italy play on the Friday, they're the only team to do so, and Finland are in a different group, and they play on the Saturday, so I can literally change the keepers. If Donnarumma blanks, I can bring on Hradecky. That's not an issue. But when you look at match day 2, for example, Finland and Italy both play on the same day, on the Wednesday 16th of June, and that is an issue because that means I have to play one of them, and if the other one does well, I can't bring them on. It doesn't matter what happens, unless one of them misses out for injury and I have or something like that, and I have automatic substitutions. I'm not going to be able to do that, so I am maybe considering a goalkeeper change there. Probably maybe Donnarumma could make way. The kind of problem I have here is that I would want Italy covering defence, as I said before, but I'm not too sure about the defenders to go for. There is Bonucci at 5.5 million, but I look at the other ones like Bastoni, who could be very good, but there's no one really that stands out to me there who has plenty of goal threat or that's completely nailed in that team other than maybe Bonucci. So that is something I could revisit. Donnarumma could make way, but I would suggest that Italy is one of the better defences you can go for. They've got a decent group, quite balanced, but they can keep a clean sheet or two in there. So that's my goalkeeper situation at the moment, but I am considering going for another goalkeeper instead of Donnarumma. And when you look at my defence, this is another one where there could be a few changes. So you look at Kyle Walker there. Why do I have him? Good question. Why do I have him? He's 6% owned, but I think he will be the starter right back. But then there is Trent Alexander-Arnold, who could be in contention, and Kieran Trippier. Wan-Bissaka obviously isn't going to be selected to England. So it's going to be a bit of a difficult one. Reece James is also someone who could come into the mix, but Kyle Walker should play the majority of the games, especially if England play a back three. Kyle Walker will be one of the centre-backs, and if Maguire is out, for example, then Walker should be quite nailed on. But I'm not too sure about this pick, but I would want someone from England. I think it's a decent group they have, and they could keep a clean sheet or two in there. But yeah, Croatia is a decent opponent. They haven't been too good recently since obviously reaching the World Cup final in 2018. Scotland is going to be very feisty. That could be a very tight game, but Scotland could be well up for it, and there could be plenty of goals in that game at the same time. And Czech Republic, yeah, maybe that's the one you expect a clean sheet in, but there could be rotation, especially if England are in a position where they're already qualified for the knockout stages, which is very probable. But Kyle Walker, I'm not so sure about. It's another one that could be changed. But then I've got Soyuncu. And yeah, I mean, it's a decent group, as I said before, when talking about Donnarumma. And Turkey are actually one of the better defences from, kind of the maybe non-top teams in the competition. But Soyuncu also has plenty of goal threat. He's scored for Turkey before, and he's been scoring goals for Leicester. Obviously, he did score that great goal against Manchester United. So he is someone to look at. And if Demiral is injured, then Kabak at 4.5 million could be even better value than Soyuncu, because he will be starting alongside Soyuncu. But having said that, I do think Turkey would be much better defensively with Demiral, who's been very impressive for Juventus over the years. But just something to keep an eye on. I think Soyuncu or maybe Kabak, if he's able to play, I think is something worth considering. One Turkish defender. And Kjær, obviously I'm just going to go with the kind of English pronunciation there, but Kjær, 4.5 million. Denmark, another team which have been quite resilient defensively. Him or Kasper Schmeichel, maybe even a double up, could be very good. Obviously it's not going to be ideal for Matchday 2 when they face Belgium, but I still think that they can do something in these 3 games in terms of clean sheets. So Kjær is a good option. He's 12% owned. I think he's quite a popular option at 4.5 million and probably one of the better options from Denmark overall. And then I think this is kind of a little gem if he continues to start. Denayer, hopefully I've pronounced that right, 4% ownership. There is also the likes of Thomas Meunier, and I see a lot of people going with Castagna, but Castagna isn't completely nailed in that team, and I think Meunier would be the first choice right wing back or right back, but Denayer should be playing at centre back. And yeah, it's a decent group for them. And I do think they've actually faced some of these teams before in the qualifiers, and they've done very well. Belgium aren't the best team defensively, and even when you look at it on paper, doesn't scream clean sheets, but I do think at 4.5 million for a team that could well reach the final and win it, I think Denayer, so long as he starts, he could be very good value for money and just a season keeper pretty much, or tournament keeper should we say. And as for my final defender at the moment is Kimpembe. I'll be honest though, it's another one where I'm not too sure about. He's 5.5 million, but he's in a very difficult group where you could maybe see a clean sheet against Hungary, but even then that's not guaranteed. And France are known for their kind of attacking flair, but I still think with Kimpembe, the kind of logic behind this move is just having someone from France, a bit of cover, and I do back France to go at least to the semi-finals. I think France and Belgium would be my tips to kind of win the Euros this season. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I think Kimpembe is a good option. He's the cheapest one from the kind of starters, and I have to say, what are France doing? Not calling up Laporte. Imagine Laporte and Varane together, but it is what it is. He's gone with Spain now, and Kimpembe will probably partner Varane, but that's something that's worth monitoring. But yeah, Kimpembe at the moment is in here, but I'll be honest, I'm not too sure about him. Him and Walker and Donnarumma are kind of the big doubts so far in my team. Now, my midfield is a bit more certain, but once again, there could be some changes. I've gone with Kevin De Bruyne right now, and I think him or Lukaku, I think is a must. Having both of them could be a differential in itself, but De Bruyne is the most owned asset at the moment in the game. 42% owned. Decent group. I think Belgium are going to score plenty of goals in the group stage, and that can carry on into the knockouts, where they might be a bit more defensive to just see out the games. But I think De Bruyne could be pretty much a set and forget. And you see what he's been doing in the Premier League. Obviously, he did very well in the last game week in Matchday 38 of the Premier League with a goal and an assist against Everton. Also in the Champions League, he's been very good. He's only blanked once or twice. So De Bruyne is definitely someone worth looking at. And yeah, he could be also someone on penalties, and I just think he's a fantastic option overall on set pieces, and probably one of the best players in the tournament. Well, scratch that, he is one of the best players in the tournament, arguably, up there with the best. So De Bruyne definitely worth monitoring. Chiesa is a very interesting one, and I have to say, it's a bit disappointing that he's not completely nailed, because I think if he starts, he could be, Italy's bright spark in the attack. And in UCL Fantasy, obviously, it's a shame that Juventus got knocked out by Porto, because Chiesa was doing so well in the Champions League, and I think he can do the same with Italy. But I look at it and I think Insigne is quite nailed, and Immobile. They can't really translate their club form with their nation. But on the right, it's a bit more uncertain. Chiesa starts some games, but then they sometimes change formation. And of course, I'll be given more specifics in terms of each team and what kind of players they tend to play, the most nailed on players and stuff like that. But Chiesa isn't one of them. He's not completely nailed. That is going to be a concern, but he's someone that could get some minutes, a bit like Greenwood in FPL, where just even a 20-minute cameo, 30-minute cameo, he can do the business. But ideally, for 7 million and above, you want someone who's going to be starting every single game. But it's going to be interesting. Chiesa is definitely worth monitoring. From Italy, I would say he's one of the best picks, so long as he starts. So one to keep an eye on. Mason Mount, I'll be honest, I'm not too sure about him. The main reason I picked him is because he's going to be playing pretty much the majority of the games, if not all. 7 million, he can get some goals and an assist. But then again, it depends. What role is he going to play in this England side? Is he going to be sitting deep with someone like Henderson or Rice? Is he going to be given a more offensive and creative role with more freedom? Who knows? But Mason Mount is a good option, one of the better ones from England. But I'll be honest, I'm not too sure about him myself. And if you look at FPL, for example, to be fair, he's been quite hard done by. His expected assists across the whole season was around 9 or 10, and he's only got 5 assists in the Premier League. So he is someone that maybe with someone like Kane in front of him, he can definitely get more assists, but not too sure about him, to be honest. As for the other midfielders, I've got Holles, who's pretty much just a budget option, but he's actually got quite a few goals this season. I think he's got 6. So someone who could be a great enabler, but not much really more that needs to be said. From his own nation, there is Soucek for 6.5 million, and he's someone I am considering. He did score a hat-trick in the World Cup qualifiers last year. But yeah, Holl is a good enabler. There's not much more that needs to be said about him. A lot of people have him, and also that 4 million midfielder. So let's wait and see what happens there. Joshua Kimmich, he is a midfielder, which is a bit of a shame. If he was a defender, I think he's pretty much a must-own. But still, Kimmich, he gets plenty of assists. He takes set pieces. He can even get a goal. And actually, one of his specialties is his long shots. So if he does score a goal, he can obviously get that additional point for scoring a goal outside the box. So Joshua Kimmich, one of the best options from Germany. I still think Gundogan is worth considering as well at 7.5 million. And especially if he continues to play that advanced role for Germany. I know he's kind of died down for City recently, but he's still capable of getting plenty of goals. And I think those two are standouts from Germany. But my midfield is pretty decent on paper, but I'll be honest, there could be some changes there with Chiesa, Mount and Kimmich, depending on what kind of vibes we're getting before the tournament starts in terms of, who are the nailed kind of midfielders in those respective nations. So there could be plenty of changes in this first draft there. So just want to warn you there. And when I do my deadline stream and future team selection videos, there will be changes. And of course, I'll be letting you guys know. Same with Twitter and also the YouTube community tab. So follow me on those platforms. But in terms of the front three, this is kind of where I'm pretty set, if anything. Of course, there's a lot of options up front. There's Lewandowski, there's Mbappe, there's Ronaldo, so many options. But I do like these three, and I think Lukaku is the one I'm the most confident in because it's a good group for Belgium. I expect Belgium to go far. Lukaku's had a very impressive season. He's even got 11 assists in Serie A, so he's had a fantastic season, 24 goals as well. So Romelu Lukaku, definitely someone I want. And from Belgium, him and De Bruyne are definitely, just two top additions to your squad. So 36% owned. He's not a differential by any stretch of the imagination, but Lukaku, I mean, his goal scoring record for Belgium is insane, and I think he can continue it. And if Belgium do win the Euros or go far, Lukaku will be a big part of that for sure. So hopefully he stays fit and continues to do what he's doing. Harry Kane is there. He is 11.5 million, so for the same price you could get Lewandowski, for example. And it is something I am considering. I might go there, but 35% owned. Harry Kane's on penalties. He's just had a great season, finishing the top goal scorer in the Premier League and the top assister. So a fantastic season for him. And he'll be definitely fired up to win the Euros for England, to claim his first international and, well, just trophy in general, unless we're counting the Audi Cup. But that's another story in itself. But Harry Kane, what a player he's been this season. And yeah, I mean, when you have players in this sort of form, they're pretty much in their prime. You know, he broke his own record from 2016-17 in terms of most goal contributions in a season in the Premier League. You know, I think he can have a great tournament this summer, and it's a good group. I think there's plenty of goals in there for Kane and England, so he's definitely one of the standout options up front and for England as a nation. And Burak Yilmaz, around 8 million. He's just won the French league with Lille. He's been a big part of that. He's on penalties for both club and country. It's a decent group. And Turkey have been a bit more defensive in recent years from what I've heard and seen and kind of researched. But I still think if Turkey do score goals, Yilmaz will be a big part of that. He is the focal point for their attack. But yeah, he's definitely someone that I'm probably looking to keep. But then again, there might be someone else like a Timo Pukki or something like that that does catch my eye. But my forward line is probably the most nailed out of any part of my team. But Donnarumma could make way. Some of my defenders like Walker, maybe even Soyuncu and Kimpembe, they could also make way. You look at my midfield, depending on if I think Chiesa is going to start or not, he could make way. And in terms of other options I'm looking at, I mean, Diego Jota, for example, he should be back from injury. 8.5 million, I think is a great option. One of the best ones from Portugal. Bernardo Silva is still a good option as well. Other than Ronaldo, he's pretty much got the most goal contributions in the qualifiers and recent years for Portugal. And Ferran Torres, I think, from Spain would be a good one. And maybe even Aymeric Laporte in defence for Spain with a decent group for them. I want to have a bit more of a balance in my team, as you can see. I am missing more French players. I would like to have maybe one more on top of Kimpembe. And I look at Spain. I've got no Spain coverage. I mean, let's look at the list of teams. I've got no one from Germany other than Kimmich. Yeah, no one from Poland, really. I mean, Lewandowski's a big miss, potentially. I look at it that way. And actually, from Portugal, I've got no one. And Portugal are, you know, one of the best teams in the competition. I mean, you look at Diaz, Bernardo Silva. It's an insane squad they have. They could do very well this summer. And yeah, look elsewhere. Switzerland, you know, they're a decent team. Maybe I could have an asset from them. Netherlands, although to be honest, with Frank de Boer, I think they've won 4 out of 9 games since he's taken over. So not a great record. He's not a very impressive manager, but Netherlands have a lot of talent, and it's still worth, I think, getting 1 or 2 of their assets, maybe like Gini Wijnaldum, Frank de Jong, Depay, etc. So there is quite a few nations I'm missing players from. Croatia's another one, for example. So I would like to have a bit more of a balance. There could be further changes in this team, but it is a first draft. So hopefully this video has helped you in a way in terms of explaining the rules for any of you who are new to this sort of fantasy game. But yeah, hopefully you've kind of gotten a good kind of impression of the game and the best assets you can go for. And I'll be talking more about, you know, which players am I going to captain on each individual day in my team selection video. So I'll be actually talking to all of you about, you know, who am I going to captain on the first day of the match day. Could be Yilmaz, could be Chiesa. On the Saturday could be De Bruyne. On the Sunday could be Harry Kane. Obviously, it depends on if one of those players I just mentioned do well. If they do, there's no need to change the captaincy. And then yeah, on the Monday, I don't know, could be someone I have from Spain, or maybe if I have Lewandowski, could be Lewandowski. And on the Tuesday, who knows, might get Mbappe and captain him or something. But yeah, I will be letting you guys know in terms of the captaincy who I'll be captaining on each day in my team selection video, and I'll be explaining any changes I make and why. But hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. Obviously, appreciate all the support throughout the whole season in FPL and also UCL Fantasy. As I said before, there's going to be a UCL Fantasy video later this week for the final. match day 13 of Champions League. So stay tuned for that, and there will be more Euro Fantasy Football content to come throughout the summer. So hopefully you join me in for that. And yeah, if there's anything, any feedback you want to leave me in terms of my team, in terms of the content, then let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll be responding to every single one of you. And there will be future deadline streams for this for sure. So you know the drill. I'll be answering all of your questions and comments, and just engaging with all of you. And if you haven't already, also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM. It's the same as my YouTube username. So yeah, pretty easy to find me on there. You can also send me your teams through direct messages and also just publicly. And yeah, we can also talk about football, FPL, UCL Fantasy, Euro Fantasy Football, and whatever it is that you want to talk about. So really appreciate the support throughout the whole season. Good luck with Euro Fantasy Football. Hopefully you did well in FPL and ended the season strongly. And if any of you are playing UCL Fantasy, good luck to you as well on that. And hopefully you get the ranks that you want and enjoy the football along the way. But appreciate all the support, and I'll see you next time.